I don't say this lightly at all, but Friday, one of the craziest things in the NBA happened. One of the craziest things that I've ever seen in the NBA happen. This is a season where we don't know 30 minutes before tip if a game's actually going to even happen. This is a season where we don't know if players are going to have COVID at any given time. We got to witness in this season something that we've never seen before. And of all places, Marty,
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, we are a Brooklyn Nets pod, remember?
Exactly. It's perfect. So KD, poor KD, continuing to get snake bitten by COVID protocols. Adam Silver's insistence to continue to move the goalposts. And I think KD's had enough. So this is what happened. KD was one of the first people. I don't know if you remember this, Marty, but KD was one of the first people to get COVID in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
March of 2020, COVID. March 17th, he told Shams he tests positive. At that point, there were only 15 confirmed cases of COVID. So we know that there is in some universe that maybe KD's immune, maybe he's not immune to COVID, which makes this whole scenario a little more bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this season rolls around and boom, January 4th, he has a close contact with someone with COVID, and he's forced to miss a week. 7 days. Didn't have COVID, never tested positive for COVID, just out of an abundance of caution, he had to sit out 3 games. And all of that to me made sense at the time because the league was really making sure that they were cautious. They are trying to be careful in a pandemic after all. And then since then, the NBA has sort of made a decision that they don't really care as much. Clearly drawing lines in the sand that money, like Kawhi Leonard said, is much more important than safety. They're all over the place in terms of when games are going to get postponed, when players get held out, when they're allowed to suit up.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real mess as of late, how they've been handling things.
I mean, this is messy. This is the girl that gets drunk at the party, throws up all over the frat party messy. And then Friday night, it got a whole lot worse. In my opinion, that the NBA finally showed that they have zero idea what they're doing. No idea. Utterly, completely clueless. 25 minutes before game time, this is what happened. The news came down. KD is going to be a last-minute scratch due to COVID protocols. Again. Even though the man tested negative 3 times, out of an abundance of caution, he's not going to play. Then, 4 minutes before game time, KD was sitting on the Nets bench, and you're like, what's going on? Then he enters the game as a reserve for the first time in his 867-game career. Doesn't start. Insane. Then midway through the third quarter, he gets a foul, and they're disputing whether he has a foul or not. And then all of a sudden, the Sandman comes and drags KD off the floor. Like, okay, because that inconclusive test from another close contact came back positive midway through the game. So let's recap. Durant has already had COVID and recovered from COVID. Has antibodies. Has returned 2 negative PCR tests, which are the accurate ones. Mm-hmm. But someone the Nets star had interacted with had COVID, and so even though he's been with his teammates all game, he has to leave. And of course, obviously in that chaos, they lost. So I think right now KD's had enough. And when he got taken out, he decided to come at the NBA on Twitter in perfect KD fashion. And I'm not even talking about using his burner. I had to look at dates. I had to look multiple times to see if it was correct. I think I came up to you and I was like, this is from right now, right?
Right, yeah.
This is him live tweeting the game?
Yeah, at Rough and Rowdy, yeah.
He's literally live tweeting the Nets game, free me.
Yeah, and then he tweeted, yo, NBA, your fans aren't dumb, with a bunch of exclamation points. You can't fool them with your whack-ass PR tactics. Hashtag free7.
Free7. I love that. So what does that mean? It means that Kevin Durant is smart enough to know that the NBA does not give a fuck about COVID. He's like, yo, you're pulling me after sitting with my teammates all night just for the look? You do not know what you're doing. All you care about is the perception. That's what he's saying. All you care about is your whack-ass PR tactics. You just want the perception that you care about player safety when you do not. And then, shockingly, KD was mad. His teammates were mad. And James Harden said this post-game. They said it was just contact tracing. I'm thinking to myself, if it's contact tracing, then we were all in the locker room together. That means that there's no game if he's not going to be able to play. That was my thought process. Marty, that's an L that just plainly should not have happened.
Yeah.
And there are lots of reasons that you can blame the Nets for taking L's to inferior teams, like Steve Nash and his trash-ass rotations that he makes. But like this night, this is not on the Nets. This is on Adam Silver in the league, 100%. Once the ball tips, you can't pull your marquee player in the middle of the game. Like, he's already out there.
Yeah.
He's already been sweating and sitting with his teammates. He was never removed from his team to begin with. He's been side by side with them for hours now. What do you think this other 15 minutes is going to do? Like, it's just dumbfounding. Tyler Hero had the exact same thing happen to him a couple of weeks ago. His roommate tested positive. Nothing happened. He got to play. No games postponed. This is insane. Fucked. So now the Nets are going to have to miss the centerpiece of their offense for multiple games because he's got a quarantine for 7 days. He misses the Pistons game and the Pacers game, so they'll probably lose. They'll probably lose both of those, the way the Pistons are playing. So here's the bottom line. This is not good. This is not, I don't consider this a part of this is a dysfunctional organization thing. This is a dysfunctional, We've got a dysfunctional league on our hands. The Nets have already been in chaos. Their big three is not meshing in the best of circumstances. The Nets have only had 5 games with Harden, Kyrie, and KD together out of a total of 12. With Durant gone this week, they're going to have 14 games without one of their big three. Sometimes they miss 2 out of those 3.
Yeah, over a quarter of a 72-game season without one of their stars on the floor. Like, it's crazy.
I would say that's meaningful.
Yeah.
I would say that's a meaningful stat. So, yeah, I would say that the league pulling this fuckery on the Nets is definitely not the same as shutting down a team like the Washington Wizards for a month. You've got a team that's a contender. This is a top 4 team in the league. KD is the league's most marketable player, top 2 player in the league, and he is just getting completely fucked by Adam Silver in the league. This is just not what you hope for if you were the Nets who mortgaged your future for James Harden. Just not. Like, despite what Stephen A. Smith says, this team is not a lock to go to the finals. This team is not a lock to do anything besides just make the playoffs. I'm sorry, Nets fans. That's the truth. So let's just recap. KD sits for 7 days now due to a close contact, but every maskless player that shared the court with him in warm-ups and on the bench and on the court is good to go? Fine. Nothing happens. No Raptors games postponed. No Nets games postponed. But KD can't play for a week? Like, aren't they the close contact to the close contact? Those teammates? Like, if he potentially has COVID, don't they potentially have COVID?
Yeah, makes sense.
I wonder to myself what the league is going to do when a close contact of an all-star tests positive the week of February 14th. I wonder. I hope it happens. Let's stay tuned. This league